because it's not fair. You guys are waiting, girls, guys and girls. Sorry. Thank you for being here. Thank you to Zing to have us in the new office. And maybe I should speak louder. That's it. I'm going just to pass the ball to Pedro Miranda. He's going to talk just a few minutes about Zing, and then we will start again with the PTM stuff. That's good?
Yes.
Okay.
Hi everyone. I will do only a quick introduction and welcome. First of all, I'm Pedro Miranda. I'm team leader here at Zing. I started here 2 months ago, and so far it has been an amazing journey, a really amazing journey. And on behalf of Zing, I would like to welcome all of you here, and it's a pleasure for us for hosting this meetup. What I can tell you about the companies that are in this location, in this Porto office, Matosinhos office, Zing is an online network, business network that have 16 million users in the German-speaking countries. The other companies, over the years, Zing acquired other companies. Two of those companies are Kununu and Internations. Kununu is a platform where employees can rate the companies they're working for or works for. And Internations is a network where expatriates can share interests or needs. And if you have any other questions or more questions or doubts about the company of one of these companies, you can talk with me or any other of my colleagues that are here today also. And if you want to meet, to take a tour in the office, you can also talk with me at the end of the meetup. But last but not least, we are hiring, and if you have interest in our open position, quality assurance position, you can talk also with me and some of my colleagues. So have a nice meetup, and it's really a pleasure to have you all here. Thank you.
Lalit, can I click here?
You can try.
All right. So you can ping us or contact us by several ways, like Facebook. We are also on LinkedIn, not here. We need to update this. And not all of the team is here, but just you memorize faces every time you need something, during the meetups, after, anyway. Okay, so this is few of the last meetups that we are having, and this is new, this slide. I mean, we have a backlog, but not very big, and we'd like to have more talks, more proposals of topics, especially ladies, please. Again, we are waiting for that. And when we have the two first proposals, today or not, we'll win a license for JetBrains. I'm not going to explain now what is it. Please visit the site. Not now. And it's interesting for who needs it, and it's a free license. Okay. Next topic. A new topic here on the PTM, the blacklist. What is it? Well, we are having some issues because lots of people are registering like this, and they are not here. So we understand that, and I'm a father, or my kid, or I'm sick, I'm not feeling good, it's raining, I register, but I'm not going. But we, many times we have people that really wants to be here, and if we forget to cancel it, the other people are waiting. Sometimes we have 10, 15 people waiting, because it's not all the time that we have these big spaces with many free chairs. and it's difficult for us because people are contacting us. Can I go? Please. So the thing is, the person that fails for 3 times, register and not cancel, is going to be the next time on the blacklist. I think it's fair, right? 3 times. It's a lot of times. So we have lots of times to not attend and not cancel, but we have to do something, right? I hope you comprehend that. Okay? Any question so far?
Is it three absences in a row, or can it be 3 separate absences?
Separate. Good question. The QA?
Yes.
I can tell. Any other scenario that we didn't thought about?
Do you want to explain what the blacklist means?
Well, yeah, I think I said it, but the blacklist is that people at the 4th time that do the registration waits. If he has place until the last day, he's going to be in.
Yeah.
Okay? I was clear this time?
It's just so they don't think that they cannot go anymore. No, they
No,
can
no.
go, but only.
Yeah, they are
Yeah.
going always.
Yeah.
Because we do this for you guys.
Yeah.
We want this. It's just that to the people that is waiting and cannot attend because
Yeah.
the list is full. Sometimes we have places with 30 spots. So, right? I can easily remember one when we had 60 people, 70 waiting, and we only had 40.
Yeah.
Okay. We never did this, but the next meetup we are going to have another one in July. Sorry, in the first week. We don't have the day yet. We have the place, but keep in touch. So, does anyone has issues with the pictures? Can the copyright, image and video? Because we are always taking pictures because we like to update our site Sunday. Okay, but we are working on that. I promise. After this meetup, we are going to be on vacations, you too. Okay, and we'll see you in October, not in September. Okay, let's have a big vacations, and in the first week of October we have plans. We have plans in November. We have lots of big plans. Maybe this year, I hope. Enjoy the talk, please, and a big welcome to Lalit. Is going to be the speaker. Sorry. I was just testing you.
All right. Hola, Poto.
Ah.
I don't know how do you wish good evening, but I would say bom dia. Anyway.
Yes.
Sort of my slides here. Am I audible loud and clear?
Yes.
Good. I have an interesting story to tell you why I'm talking about this topic. Exactly around the same time last year, I was in New York and I did a workshop there around whole team testing at Test Leadership Conference. I got to interact with lots of interesting people there, test directors, directors of engineering, team leads, testers, and among many other interesting things, the topic that we discussed and that stuck with me was contribution of testers in modern Agile and DevOps world, and also their evaluation. And ever since, I have been thinking, what am I really doing as a tester in a modern Agile development world, in a DevOps world? And that made me think, what am I doing? Or what is my significance as a tester in my team? and I'm still trying to find answers. And this is something I would like to talk with you too. Could you please tell me why are you in your team? Why? What is your significance? What is your contribution in the teams you are working? Typically, if you're in agile teams, working as an individual tester, solo tester, you are all allowed to talk. If I did not make it clear.
Me too?
Yes, but you need to ask my permission. Come on, you are all working, I'm sure.
Yeah. I'm in my team to keep quality in mind when we're trying to release something new, or even to keep the old stuff from breaking when they're trying to make something new. So I'm in my team to keep, from the beginning of the process, when they are thinking and writing, starting to write new things, I'm there to keep them in mind, to keep in mind everything that we need to do to have a quality release.
So you're basically a reminder for everybody to think about quality.
Yeah.
Yeah, not bad. Maybe Pedro, you can tell me why do you have testers in your team?
Yeah, one of the things is really I want to deliver value to our customers, and that value need to have quality. And I don't know, we also to our products to be excellent all the time, and we always aiming that. And since the developers try to do the best code they can, the testers also do the best tests they can to avoid some bugs or I don't know, incorrections in the product. So we aim excellence. So tests improve the quality of our product.
And do you think testers can contribute beyond improving quality in your team?
Yeah. During the process, they do a lot of questions. They questions that sometimes developers don't think of that, or even sometimes product owners don't think of that. And I think that they're very, very good. Sometimes there is some discussions, but I think that's a good thing because they look in the other way for the same thing. They have a different look to the same product.
Good. I'm glad that you are making those points because I'm also going to expand on some of those aspects. My personal realization has been, after spending over 10 years in testing, is that as a tester, I don't just contribute to the quality of software, or rather I shouldn't be just contributing to quality of software, because with my skills I have more potential to contribute more than that, and that's what I'm going to talk about with my experiences and ideas. Before that, let's have some philosophical discussion if you are in the mood. It's a nice evening. A very interesting poem by William Yeats, Second Coming, and I was having this discussion with James Clark around discussing system collapse, where he introduced me to this poem. Turning and turning the winding gyre, the falcon cannot hold the falconer. Things fall apart, the center cannot hold. Mere anarchy is loosened upon the world. Does that ring any bell? Do you find yourself in similar situations sometimes? Especially if you are under pressure situations at work, especially if you're team lead and you have to deliver test lead, test manager. Alright, let's talk about this scenario. What happens when you, as a tester, are suddenly sick, or you have a vacation plan and you don't have a backup in team to cover up the task you have been doing? Say it again, loud and clear.
Okay.
Very good. I should have had some candies for you. That's exactly what I feel. That's exactly what I have experienced happening. Chaos. Chaos. And why it happens? I interviewed some of my ex-colleagues, some programmers I worked with, some testers I was working with, and I asked them, hey, what was happening when I was not around? What was your interaction? What was your impression? What was your reaction? What all things you had to deal with? And based on that, I created this interesting diagram, I would say. So most of the things you can relate yourself with when you are suddenly not there. Team deals with uncertainty. They have lots of confusions. They don't know how to pick up from the task you have left in between, how to prepare test data, what are the risks involved, or what kind of risk list you had in mind. If you are part of deployments, then indeed your deployments are impacted. Nobody's there to check the failures and analyze automated tests. Pile of untested tickets and testing related tasks, bug investigations are impacted. Nobody is there in meetings to raise the risk or raise concerns or even ask challenging questions to the discussions that are happening, which leads to missing risk assessment again, pending bug investigations. But beyond this all, what I want you to look at is the loops or the feedback loops this whole thing is creating when you are suddenly not there, and the impact these feedback loops are having on the system you operate into. So your project team that you're working to is nothing but a system that we all are operating. And if you look at the controller here, which is typically your team lead or director or anybody who is responsible for keeping things together, you will realize that all these feedback loops, when they are not balancing each other out, they result in a degraded feedback, which you as a tester are primarily responsible for. Maybe you don't know, but unknowingly as a tester, you are the feedback mechanism for your team lead, for your system you operate into. And when that feedback is degraded, the control a controller can have on the system gets impaired. And when there is an impaired control, your system leads into either collapse or explosion. And this is much more deadlier than leaving a bug in a production. We are talking about very big thing here. And by this, I want you to realize your potential as a tester, because you are not just a traditional gatekeeper of quality, you are not just a bug finder, you are not just an automator in your project team, but you are much more than that. Because your absence can result in disrupting your system, and if it is not managed properly, it can eventually lead to collapse or explosion. To understand what I'm talking about, collapse and explosion, I recommend you reading Jerry Weinberg's How Software is Built book, particularly the feedback effects. But that's not the topic for the today's meetup, so I will skip on this now. And that again brings back to the basic question. If it is not just about finding bugs, if it is not just about writing tests, then what testing really is? The question is for you all. I know why I test.
Anticipate
Anticipate what?
things. Shit.
Okay, what else?
Improve.
Come again, please.
To improve
To improve what?
whatever we are testing.
And what is testing?
It's a process.
Process of?
Something specific goals that should happen in specific situations.
Okay, and what if those specific situations are not favorable to you?
Also,
Can you test still? Would you still be testing if the situations are not favorable for the whatever results you want to achieve? Come on guys, it's a very simple question. If you have kids and if they're asking you, Daddy, what you do, Mama, what you do, you tell them we are testing. But what do you do?
We make sure that things are working correctly.
It's a very big statement. How do you ensure that?
Yeah, it depends on the specification.
And if there's no specification, then I mean I don't remember of having any specification in the last 5 years I have worked. We are no longer living in a world. I mean, of course, in certain contexts you get the specifications, but
If you don't have them, you can write them based on testing.
what else? Alright, I will tell you my definition of testing and what it is for me. From the school of philosophy to which I belong to, Axiom School or even rapid software testing. Software testing for me, it's an empirical investigation between the product, people and the system in which we operate. When we say we want to make something work, you are not just talking about the product and its bug-free release in production, but you are talking about big things. You are talking about the people that are responsible for it. You are talking about the system which is contributing to it. You are talking about the product itself which is interacting with this. So a skill tester basically does an empirical investigation between all these three systems. He observes things, he draws inferences, he makes an experiments, and through this collective intellectual process, he creates or finds an information. And that's what we do. We as testers are in information business. Our output or contribution to the system we are working in is an information. This information can be anything. This can be critical context revealing questions asked during discussions. This information can be bugs you are finding on the fly. This information can be your challenge you make against some decision being made. This information can be an impact analysis of how decision made by another team is going to impact your software. It can be anything. An information that helps your stakeholders make an informed decision is what we test for. And that's what testing is all about. And this is why I would repeat, you are not just here to automate things or write test scripts. By testing, you are controlling the system, people and the software and the entire relationship between them. That's how, that much powerful role you have as a tester. And I want you all to think about it today and make sure that you really understand your true potential. I will quickly walk you through further things. So you might be wondering, okay Lalit, we understand, we are powerful, we are awesome. Why are you telling this? Where is the problem? The problem I experience is with lack of awareness. Testers themselves are not fully aware of the potential they have, the contribution they can make in the project teams. Why? Typically because whenever there are changes in technology or other drivers like methodologies coming in, usually all the help and best practices and guidance are available for programming community, for example. And testers are typically left to fit in, find out their own way to deal with the situation. And this oftentimes results in testers getting dragged into the direction of what is more favorable to them in this particular context, and which is why we see more and more testers just catching up with automation, trying to automate everything, trying to become excellent automator, but eventually in this process they are apparently forgetting that automation is just part of the whole thing they do. Writing an automated script, yes, it is important, no denial, but that's just one part. And as a tester, you have a lot to contribute more on the product side, on the business side. Your automated test that is passing or rather failing is not adding a lot of value to the product you are shipping in market. And if you don't care about all these things as a tester, probably you're not doing your job well. Why I think this is a problem? I have a couple of things to support my concern. So, from last 7 years, I have been running state of testing survey together with my another colleague in Israel. And we have been collecting data by asking questions to testers, and we are trying to figure out every year how testing is changing the scenario for everyone. An interesting observation has been where testers are reporting to. So long ago there used to be central testing department, testers used to report to maybe test managers, there were central directors of QA, but now the scene is changing. It has changed to the bigger context, bigger extent now. Testers are now contributing to an individual team, and they are reporting to dev leads, tech leads, and eventually to CTO maybe. This is not a problem for me. The problem is, most of the times, testers, when they are reporting to dev leads, tech leads, their managers do not have a hands-on experience in testing. They are not well versed with the philosophy of testing as much as well versed they are with the programming wisdom. And this plays an unfair role on testers' evaluation, testers' career progression, testers' even contribution to the team, because all the guidance that is available to him from his superiors is mostly in terms of automate this, use this framework, use these best practices. But that is not enough. For a tester, there is much more that he needs to be able to contribute to his potential fully. How much of their time they are spending on what all activities. And if you notice, pretty much 80% of the time testers are spending on writing test automation and scripts. Very good if you can do it. I insist every tester should know how to automate. But if you are doing only that, I really need to inform you, you are not a tester. You are just writing an automation. You are just an automator. Because testing, as I said before, is way beyond just writing tests and automating things. You are not utilizing your potential to full of its abilities, and the real contribution is not really happening. And if you are concerned about your future as a tester in your team, then apparently it is partly because you are not using your potential. So think about it, because we are testers and we are not supposed to only write automated checks. We are way beyond that. Big question now. So, alright. How can we contribute better? Any ideas? Are you, apart from writing automated tests or even writing tests, finding bugs, doing something different? Anything extra you're doing in your job? Any shared responsibilities, like writing code or maybe writing unit tests, for example, or anything else that you're doing or that you're asked to do? Yes, no, maybe, sorry? Could you be louder, please?
Even ideas about the product, how to improve it, investigate the marketing, contribute to the PR to...
That's the very good. Good. So do you do it like out of some, like is there any process you're following there? Are there any channels you're using to communicate this info?
Yeah, I also have rounds with the PO, and sometimes you just say, hey, which ideas do you have? Yeah,
That's very cool. That's very interesting. Anyone else is doing something else? Come on, people. Don't be shy. Yes, please.
Some code review of the development.
Perfect. Awesome. So do you give them feedback in code reviews?
Yeah, you think I can understand what they are doing? I try to see them and do the test case according to that.
So they change their test cases, or you are changing yours?
I change them, or I said this could be better.
That's very interesting. In my project, we had also started reviewing unit tests, and as a tester, we used to ask them really sometimes silly questions about semantics and all, and even with those tiny questions, they realized they could do better and some other things, but very interesting. Okay, let me ask this simple question. Did any one of you do something different than writing script or testing, clicking buttons or writing tests today? Anything else? You could have had coffee with the programmer, that's perfectly fine, but just tell me.
Tracking analytics, best get the feedback from the user, good test also.
Awesome. So you are interacting with users already, or you're just tracking?
Yeah, we're using the analytics.
Okay. So you're reading how users are behaving. Wonderful. That's what I want to hear. Yes, please.
Prepare test data, prepare
Test data, okay.
Test environments, set up a pipeline for continuous integration.
Okay. Okay, cool. Yes, please.
Okay, configuring pipelines, monitoring, setting alarms.
nice. And does it allow, like, does it alarm you on time? Perfect, yeah. We are going to discuss that in detail, but I'm very happy that at least some of you are doing some interesting things. Very cool.
Support the team is how to divide testing between Unity, API level, and UI.
So you're kind of doing test consultation with your project team as well. Excellent, excellent, very good. I have some other ideas on top of this. These are definitely useful. I would just share what I have been doing and what I find useful. Bang. Have you been advocating for testability in your project? Or do you feel it's something you could contribute to? Because I don't think if you don't care, then most likely others won't. I assume you all understand what testability is and why it is important. Have you considered being an advocate for testability in your project? I mean, come on, remember those times, those moments when you want to test something, but there are 10 things that are blocking you. Sometimes the environment is down, some bug is blocking you from really doing what you want to test, some test data thing is not working, or some error message could be more informative, or some log information could be really helpful for you to figure out what's really going on. Did you try to change that? Or do you think you could try to change that to make your own life easier?
At least on my case, we don't do it directly. We do it with the developers. We ask them to make available for us testers
Yes, yes.
certain endpoints and tools, not tools, but certain triggering endpoints only available on the QA stage. That allows us to have an additional control of the application.
Perfect, yeah.
Test us faster and
Awesome, yeah. And do you do it on the kind of need basis, or you have some regular sessions set up with your programmers to improve that or change that, or have you tried pairing with the programmer to do this?
It's basically a decision made on the business and technical meetings. Those are the meetings where we decide how we're going to test something and if it's possible to test it or not.
Okay, interesting. So what I started doing was I do my testing in session-based testing manner, and I have one dedicated session, maybe bi-weekly, or at least in past I was doing that, to pair with the programmer or even myself, just going through things and figure out what our testability issues are there and how we could improve. And kind of hacks that we implemented in past really improved my life as a tester, because that gave me better control over the system I was testing. It allowed me to do things much faster, which were otherwise very difficult to replicate in real-time scenario. I would advocate all of you, if you are not doing this, at least focus on intrinsic testability part. Try to understand what it really means and how you can implement that in context of your project. Understand it yourself, analyze your own product, your system, the people around you, and try having a discussion with them. Try to improve the testability of your product you're working on. And I'm sure that will change a lot of things for better, a lot of things. If your software that you're testing is good in terms of its observability, controllability as you rightly said, if it is simple with its algorithm, if it is less buggy, that is not blocking you from testing the important things, if it is small enough so that you can isolate it, if it is decomposable enough, there are lots of factors that you can implement and improve the testability of your product. And maybe once you're done implementing in your own project, you can help other teams. Because testability is something where I have experienced myself as a tester to be someone who will just tolerate and then eventually get used to things, which is not very much helping. So as a tester, if I'm spending 70% of my time in only setting up a test data or fighting with the environments or dealing with the pipelines, when I will do my job as a tester to create value for a business or the product that we are testing or the features we are releasing in market, the thinking part still remains, the ownership of that thinking, that risk analysis remains with the tester, and you need to have enough time to do that. If you are investing on testability improvements, I assure you, you will save a lot of time for yourself that you can utilize better for things you are expected to do. Any questions? Any doubts? Arguments? Okay, so that was about testability sessions, and I have personally experienced benefits of that. I recommend you do that. Another experiment I did last year, creating quality experience by pairing with UX guys. I believe interaction designers, UX people and testers have more or less similar goals, similar challenges, and there is very thin line between the traditional job both the professions are doing. UX people think more from the design thinking perspective, and we as a testers are more qualified or capable of thinking from system perspective. Imagine if system thinking collaborates with design thinking at a very early stage, what benefit it would bring to a product. Imagine that a UX designer is proposing a design that you are testing as a tester. He might have one awesome solution for some particular problem, but as a tester, you could give them 10 reasons why it would not work, right in the design and concept phase. You don't have to test something at the last stage and say this won't work, but you can collaborate with UX guys right from the beginning in the concept phase and help them figure out what are the loopholes, how you see it as a potential problem considering third-party dependencies, historical experiences, some decisions made, some bugs that are existing, some technical challenges, because you could be their technical counterpart or you could be their devil's advocate, I would say, and help them design things by not wasting much more time at the later stage in research and analysis. On contrary, a UX person can help you, give you the data that can help you better sample or do better sampling of your user segments, devices for example. If you want to test some feature, how many users are using this particular feature at what time, at what device, that will help you sample your test data much better. That might help you prioritize your test strategy better. If there is something which is important but still not used by enough users or not used by users that matter, probably it doesn't make sense to invest too much time on doing that as a higher priority than something that is more important. And you would probably not know all these things unless you interact with the designers. They have better interaction with the real life users. They have more interesting methods, I would say, to analyze user data. Try to use their knowledge to your advantage, and maybe try to create a good quality experience rather than just user experience or quality assurance. Sit with them and see if you can create a quality experience for user. Because when, in my experience, I have observed, they are usually focused on solving particular problem, but you as a tester can provide them a system overview of how that particular problem can be looked from the entire paradigm, and that definitely makes a big difference in how they think. Do it. I'm very sure it will help you. When I was developing this idea together with my colleague, at the same time Jerry Weber published his system design heuristic books, and that helped me a lot to create a heuristic for UX thinking for testers. I haven't not published it yet, but very soon I will write about it. But most certainly this thing has helped me, and I recommend you to give it a try. And in worst case, if your company doesn't have UX designers, I'm sure they are relying on you testers to think like UX guy as well. So give it a shot. Advocating product coverage, very important of all things I would recommend. What usually happens is when we are testing something in our typical Agile setup, we are so obsessed with acceptance criteria, specifications, and that we eventually forget to consider the aspects of quality that matter a lot, sometimes much more than functional aspects, but there is nobody to look after that. And if tester is not concerned about it, then apparently nobody would. I would urge you to educate yourself about product coverage that lies beyond just the functional aspect of software. There is a structure that can help you derive more test cases. Figure out if the technology being used is JavaScript, if it is something else, and your knowledge about those structure related aspects will help you identify more test cases, more scenarios. Play with data, try to test something with different data types, try to input that data in different ways. There are many interfaces. If you're typing it with hands, if you're typing it with some Bluetooth connected device, if you're inserting data with some third-party application connected, there are lots of ways that might impact the quality of your software. Time-related tests are there, operation-related tests. How is your application responding if some angry user is testing it or using it, if some child is using it, if some grandma is using it? There are lots of scenarios. Platform, very, very common if you're mobile interfaces. There are lots of integrations and mechanisms are there in place which can create more possibilities for different interfaces to be there in place. If you as a tester are not thinking of all these possibilities, most certainly no one else is. Which is why I would recommend, when you are advocating your team for thinking about quality or what tests they should write between unit and integration tests, give them this coverage map and ask them to think about all the possibilities. Think for yourself, pair with them and try to develop more and more tests that will increase coverage of your product, test coverage of your product. And most likely after that you will start seeing the quality of bugs you're finding, or even the user complaints that you're noticing will be of very different quality. There will be very different things that you will see. Any questions here? So this is just a high level abstraction I have created, but please read a heuristic test strategy model by Bolton, James Bach and Michael Bolton, and there you will find expanded version of San Francisco heuristic that I just explained you. Alright, you can do deployments and production telemetry. So as some of you are already doing and finding out how users are using the your software in production, you can definitely use that data to derive more tests. What I usually do, I go through the system logs, error logs, and on many occasions I could identify some scenarios, some test cases which I could never think of otherwise. Considering Zing as a platform with so many users and possibility of having historical contracts with different kind of conditions, payment methods at that time, it is very difficult to create a certain user state just by creating a test data. And these users still exist, their problems are still real. Most of the time the customer complaints that we are receiving are related to this very interesting combination of user states and lots of things. Regularly monitoring production logs is a very good way for you to figure out how your users are really using the application, what kind of contracts are there, what kind of states they can exist into, and using this information you can derive more tests for yourself. This is one very simple example. I have experience of finding lots of interesting things just by going through production logs. I could understand the dependency between third-party applications, how certain things that were done by another team were affecting our scenario. There was no straightforward way to figure it out with my typical end-to-end integration test or just having a discussion. Give it a shot, I'm sure it will definitely help you. And deployments. If you are not doing deployments yet, I recommend you please start taking ownership for doing production deployments. What usually happens is when programmers are doing a deployment, they are immediately checking production logs. If you take over this responsibility, you will naturally make yourself habitual to see the productions log after deployments it helps you in many ways. It helps you understand the infrastructure you are using, and sometimes that infrastructure, knowledge of that infrastructure can also help you find more tests which are not directly functional tests but which are still impacting the quality of your software. Because if you are not able to deploy the software on time in market, probably whatever you tested so far has no value to that. Having a good exposure to production deployments has helped me have a meaningful conversations with programmers. I learned to speak their language, and that in turn helped me earn more respect as a tester from my programmer friends. And eventually it helped our pairing sessions more useful. So this activity looks very simple on the face of it, but when you really start doing it, you will have questions that you will probably ask them. You will understand terms and technology related things. You will probably get exposed to more log monitoring things where you can pair with programmers. And if you really like to pair test and test with collaboration with your other team members, I recommend you starting owning the deployments. It's a very, very useful activity you can do for yourself as a tester. Any questions so far? Okay. User care, my best friends, I talk to them very often because most of the times they create bug tickets which are like known issues for us. Sometimes they create bug tickets because they do not know how to investigate a problem. Sometimes they create bug tickets because they are not aware of the decisions that we have made on our side as a product delivery people. Having a regular exchange with your customer care is a very beneficial activity you can do for them as well as for yourself, because through them you can come to know very interesting use cases, very interesting bugs which you will probably never find through any means. Users are in direct contact with our customer care or your customer care, and I would suggest if you get an opportunity to have that control with you or have that opportunity to discuss with your users directly, there is nothing better than you can do for yourself. And this is way more helpful than just analyzing and trying to interpret the data using analytics, because there are lots of factors that matter, right? So think about these possibilities. There is a lot you can do. You can create technical hacks that your user care can use, so they don't have to depend on you to waste your time every other time. You can pair with them to create some user manual, because that also helps you understand your own product from a user point of view. As a tester, you are well versed with your product, but the user doesn't know the hacks you are using in between. The user doesn't know the decisions that were made in between. The user doesn't have that previous knowledge. You could be a very good connecting link between the user care and the user experience that people can get. Being a very good software tester and having a regular exchange with your user care team. Try it, it helped me, and I encourage you to do that. If they are not coming to you, you go to them, ask them questions. Try to interact more with them through whatever Jira tickets they are creating. Just don't leave it with the fact that okay, they are user care, they probably don't know. Have a contact. A classic example in my case would be our user care uses a third-party system to interact with our users through emails and all. This email tool what they have in place is not our product. This is not part of what we ship. And there was a bug in the product they were using which was affecting the customer experience in the end, because our end users don't know the problem coming from is whether it's from our software or it's something internal that our teams are using. And this is where you can work as a connecting link between your user care and other systems, because the integration that typically doesn't happen, but there is still some kind of integration that is there in place. Here you can behave and act as a connecting link and find the gaps there and solve the problems, because that will make your life easy. Otherwise, they will keep on creating bug tickets for you, which will be eventually eating up your time in investigation only to conclude that this is not a bug or we won't fix or whatever. These are some small things that I believe have helped me a lot in a very large scale because on high level they sound very subtle, but the impact they can create is very powerful. All you need to do is understand your own responsibilities as a tester and use your skills to make all these things happen. Any question here? Any experience to share? Any doubts, complaints, concerns? Okay, and in the end you will still make friends. That's an added advantage. The powerful thing that I was talking about. If you want to impress your boss, I think as a tester you are in a very good position to do that. Why? Because as I explained before, as a tester you have the tremendous power and capability to protect your system from the collapse or explosion. And how you can do that is by giving timely feedback to the controller, which is usually your boss or any controller for that matter. As a tester, you are gifted with the power of observation. The golden rule to prevent a system from collapse or explosion is to act early and act small. This applies more for leads who are the decision makers for this law. But in order to be able to act early, you need to sharpen your power of observations. And in order to act small, you need to enhance your power of observing subtleties of human behavior. You as a tester are interacting with other people in team, other stakeholders in team on day-to-day basis. If you know how to use your power of observations, you can definitely identify the risks, you can definitely identify the potential problems, and you can use this information to give timely feedback to your controller. By this, I don't mean go and complain about people. That's not the point I'm making. But let me give you one example. I used to work with a programmer back in my days when I was working with Barclays. He was new to the team and he was given an area he had no experience of, functionality wise. Over the period of time, I noticed he was making repeated mistakes of same type. I noticed a pattern in his behavior. I wasn't judging him, but as a tester, it's in my brain, it's in my roots, it's in my blood now to notice the patterns, to observe the patterns. So whenever he was developing something, I knew where are the bugs, where are the mistakes he's going to make. And that observation, that pattern noticing habit helped me to create a risk list of the things I was working on. And it rarely happened that I did not find bugs in the area I was already expecting to happen or find. Using this skill that you are gifted with, that you are skilled with, observations, you can observe the system around yourself, you can observe people, you can observe their behaviors, you can observe their typical mistakes they are doing. You can probably figure out their weak areas, you can probably even find out what they are good at and use that information, that knowledge for your benefit. I remember of working with a programmer who was amazing at debugging things, and whenever I had a problem debugging a bug or getting to the root of a bug, I used to pair with him and he never disappointed me. Use your power of observation and making inferences, drawing inferences from that to protect your system from collapse. And I think this is a very powerful contribution you can make in your project team, in your system you're operating into, because this is way beyond and way powerful than just preventing bugs or finding bugs or protecting quality of a software. Be eyes and ears or even advocate for your system controller. Any question here? No. Alright. How much time do I have now?
Whenever you finish.
Okay,
How long?
I can talk the whole night.
Yeah, I know. How long are you going to take?
I just have a couple of slides. So, of course, to do these things in a way that it will help you and your project team, you certainly need skills, because all of us now have good programming skills, scripting skills, we are very good at automating, we are very good at finding problems perhaps, but there are definitely skills that you will need to be able to contribute for the things that we discussed before. I will quickly walk you through the skills that I am talking about. Programming skills, but obvious. Testing skills, but obvious. Cognitive skills. So this is big umbrella of many other skills. System thinking, very, very important. Analogical thinking, problem solving, critical thinking, reasoning, observation. People skills, communication, interactional expertise. If you really want to be excellent tester and make a valuable contribution with your skills, I recommend you to work on your interactional expertise. What I mean by that, you need to be able to explain a particular problem to different kind of stakeholders. If there is a technical problem, you should be able to explain that to your PO. Excuse me, who might not be very technical. You should be able to communicate or discuss that problem with UX people who might have different way of looking at things. You should be able to explain the same problem to a programmer who might understand technical language. You should be able to explain the same problem to user care, or you should be able to explain the same problem to user himself. And for that, you need to have interactional expertise. Way more important skill than any other skill in my experience for tester is interaction expertise. How do you practice that? I would recommend pick up any concept, let's say system testing for example, or pick any topic of your interest and write about it in 50 words, and then write about the same thing in 150 words. Practice doing that and make sure that you are still able to communicate the information with different number of words you are trying to practice without changing the meaning, without impacting the value that you want to communicate. Business knowledge and skills definitely helpful. Teamwork and collaboration. I would again insist, if you are not pairing with programmers or if you are not doing pair testing with other stakeholders than testers, please start doing it. You will learn a lot of things and they will also learn a lot of things. Coaching, leadership, some of you are already doing, please keep doing that and encourage others to do so. Characters. Do you have courage to speak when it is important to say things that might hurt people, that might offend them, but you get paid to tell people bad things usually as a tester? If you find information which is disturbing, which is risky, but you do not have a courage as a tester to challenge that or communicate that, probably you are not doing your job, or whatever you found out is still useless unless you communicate it. So never be afraid of saying things that are important to be communicated on time. Be empathetic. Empathy will definitely help you to collaborate better with different stakeholders, to understand users' point of view. Empathy will definitely help you if you are collaborating with UX people more, because they think more from the user side sometimes. They think sometimes more from the product side. If you have good empathetic skills, you can easily jump between these roles and try to feel what the people at the receiving end are going to experience, and use that knowledge, that experience, to think about different scenarios for yourself. Be flexible. I don't want you to start saying no to automation because I'm talking about other things. Please don't do that. Focus. There are many areas you can focus on: UX, human-centered software, complexity risks, obviously. Roles. It's more of a career progression discussion, but I would still say as a tester within a tester role itself or tester designation itself, you can play different roles. You can be advocate for your team for quality, testability. You could be a coach for user care, or you could be a coach for some user group for introducing your product. Strategist, very important skill. If you are using the mantra of observation skills, that knowledge can definitely help you strategize things. You can pair with your boss, you can pair with your team to strategize and make a better product plan. So the bottom line is, as a tester, there is a lot more you can do than just having programming skills and becoming expert automator, because that is one tiny part of big scheme of things you can do, you can contribute as a tester in your project team, in a system that you operate into. And with that I would say, as a tester you are not just studying and assessing only the product you are working with, but in a way you are studying and assessing the system you operate into, and that is very powerful gift, very powerful thing. Please use it to your advantage and also your system's advantage. And that's about it. Special thanks to some interesting and important people from my team, Sebastian, Paulo, Miguel. They helped me prepare this talk and come here and present in front of you from Hamburg. Of course, PTM team for believing that I could say something in front of you. And thanks. If you have any questions, I'm here and we can talk. If you want to argue, debate, I'm a fan of arguments, so please do so. Right, then.
Now, don't close it yet. Let people.
I'm not closing. They are opening boxes. How can I close? Yes, please.
A very broad question is, for most of the companies, the tester is hired just to keep rocks, breaks.
To what?
Make point and click testing.
Yes.
Just that.
Yes.
So, like you were saying, the true potential of the tester is even deeply.
Yeah. So there are two sides. So are you done or?
My question was, what advice would you give for them to just break free of that steam, those chains, and really start growing as a tester?
Sure.
Achieve the great potential.
First thing is I would ask you to do the same presentation, but for non-testers. So I originally had this talk for test managers, engineering leads and all in the leadership congress, because my main concern is evaluation of testers currently, because as I said before, people who are now responsible for testers' growth, their career progression, or even their evaluation in agile teams, they are typically from non-testing background, and I won't hold it against them. So what usually happens is they try to judge testers more on their programming skills, how good quality code they are writing for automation. But come on, that's very tiny portion of what they can really do. I would suggest it is now testers' job to make it visible that they are much beyond that. So this is why I also started doing certain things to show, hey, I'm not just an automator here, I'm not just a script monkey, I am much more, and these are the things I can do. And this is how, because it won't help if you just argue or if you just talk about it. There has to be an evidence, it has to reflect from the activities you are doing. So take initiatives, start having testability sessions with your programmers, start having kind of feedback you can have for your product with POs, start pairing with UX people, start pairing with user care, take ownership for deployments, ask critical questions. There is a lot to do, and show through it if you want to do it. So these are some ways that I made things visible for myself. There could be much more that in your context you can make visible and share with us in next time. Because if testers don't care, nobody would care. My observation has been, and it is my very big concern, testers are now getting dragged so much into just this automation fancy that they are more keen on becoming good at programming, which is fine, which helps. But if testers are doing programming, who will do testing? Who will take or do the dedicated job of being devil's advocate, thinking differently? Because even if we expect programmers to test, they still have to fight their cognitive dissonance there. It's not easy. But testers exist for a reason, and they better do their job along with all these additional things. I'm not saying no to programming. Please learn it. It's very important. I'm also every day learning new things. It helps you to communicate better, understand things better. But don't stop with that, or don't make that the big part of your work. Just use it to save time for yourself so that you can do your job, main job as a tester, better way. But again, doing things, showing, leading by example, having discussion with other testers, I think that would be a good way to start with it. Good luck. Any other question, complaint? Share people, unless if you don't share the pain, nobody is going to help. Yes.
Okay. I am studying and I'm almost finishing my course about software engineering. And we are learning a lot of things. How to work in Agile, well, not Agile, but and we do our work in sprints. We learn a lot of things doing presentations about our study in 2 weeks. And 2 weeks or not,
2 weeks.
1 month ago, we have a presentation about, well, we in the week that we don't have the presentation, we have presentations of some companies that are showing us their work, and we ask them why we don't have they don't prepare us to be QA. And they said, we don't have to prepare you, you will learn in in the company. So the question I have for you is, what do you advise, what is your advice to us? Well, we are
Do you fear getting fired?
No, just to context you, we learn to code in Java. We also learn some things of DevOps, doing pipelines, well, a lot of things. They prepare us for the work. They give us tools that a lot of companies use, but we don't know nothing about quality, and we would like to know how can we start.
Ask them.
We ask.
Then probably they don't know.
Yeah.
Then tell them that there are things that exist. Ask them to come for this meetup. Or so this is very, very big questions actually. Very interesting one. How I fought such battle. The answer to this is not simple, and the effort it requires is probably also not simple. But if you really want to do it, it is possible to do. When I was working in a consulting firm, I was asked to do a very stupid job of just writing pass, fail, expected versus actual nonsense. Works in some cases, it never worked for me. And I wanted to do something meaningful. So I started connecting with testers across the globe. I started reaching out to people who are offering free coaching to testers. So that's how I got in touch with James Bach, Michael Gordon, and other passionate testers who are also fighting their battles. And being active part of community helps you to find out your ways to fight this battle. I would suggest you need to start creating what I call as intellectual culture of quality, where people are discussing quality. There is a discussion happening, there are questions being asked, and you cannot expect someone else to do that for you. If you're concerned, you need to start and do it. If they think you don't have to learn it, then ask them questions. If there is something wrong, if there is some bug, if some quality expense is bad, question them, how did this happen? how it could have been avoided. It really depends on a lot of context related things. If I would be in your case, I would have probably said, hey, you are idiots and you should probably educate yourself, because quality every year, with lots of debate over and again, companies in the end conclude that they cannot do without testing. There are so many examples of big news every other time you see flights getting cancelled, some major security issues happening. These are the evidences, despite of having algorithms in place. Just today I read a very frightening, very upsetting software glitch. You know what is happening with YouTube's artificial intelligence tool, whatever they are doing. Their algorithm, which they believe probably they don't need, why some people think they don't need to care about quality. Their algorithm has been exposing very innocent kids video to the big pedophile market in the world. So their algorithm is there, which does not filter videos of kids begging skimpy clothes or whatever. They are kids, they are innocent, they don't know. But if they notice a pattern of some person having watched some kind of videos, softcore porn or whatever, YouTube is recommending them and exposing the videos of people who do not even know. A case happened where some lady and her daughter, less than 8 years old or whatever, posted a video of kids playing in a swimsuit, and within 2 weeks of uploading that, the video had more than 400,000 views. And this could happen because YouTube's artificial intelligence run algorithm is exposing that. These are the things that make things even worse. This is very upsetting thing, and you could then ask them with such references, do you care? If you care, then you should care about quality. Sometimes some companies learn things and lessons the hard way, but if you are persistent, I'm sure they will have to give up, and at least they would have to explain you why they are not doing it. Probably they assume they know, probably they think they know that what software quality is, but clearly they probably don't know. I'm sorry, I really don't have a very canned response for you, because it really depends on lots of factors. Sometimes they are beyond your control, but I won't give up. I have had my own fights where eventually I won't. Sometimes I change the place. It's about your values. Sometimes some people just give up and, okay, if you don't care, I don't care. That's not my attitude. I would rather work somewhere where they care for the quality, where they value inputs coming from people and at least consider it. So Zing being a very technology driven company, we are like, whenever there is something new in technology, we are on it. But still we have a very good team of testers, and Zing has never cut short on testers ever. We are even hiring more. Because we understand testing, I believe we understand the value of quality, and we don't pretend that all is good. I think it's just a matter of how you communicate again, interactional expertise, figure out, observe, try to make friendship with people who have similar opinions like you, try to see from the group of decision makers who might be positive towards this request, try to help them understand, give them some references from internet, and I'm sure it will work out. Good luck to you too.
Thank you.
I think someone else had a question. Yes.
We talked about communication and the fact that you have to be able to communicate something in a very concise
Interactional
way.
expert, yeah.
When the problem is exactly that, put it like that, when the person does want to help or does have a problem in talking or in exposing everything that he wants to say, for fear perhaps that the simple detail would be the clincher of it. Besides the exercise you mentioned, what would be a good tool to improve that?
Read Harry Collins.
Sorry?
Read Harry Collins. He has written, so this Harry Collins has done a very interesting job on this interactional expertise thing. I think in his book, either Thinking Fast and Slow, I believe it's the book that can definitely help you understand this better and communicate better and improve on your interactional expertise.
Okay, thank you.
No worries. you ready to eat? Thank you all for interesting questions and patiently listening to my rant. I hope it somehow helped or it helped. And feel free to get in touch if you have more questions. I'm there on Zing and on LinkedIn and on Twitter, and just Google and probably you will find it. Thanks a lot and have a great evening.
Okay, we can enjoy the coffee.